it's Susie here. Today we're diving into a topic that is absolutely essential for the long-term success of your business, and that's creating a great onboarding system for your team. Now, even though the topic of onboarding might not be as glamorous as launching a new product or getting a boatload of new clients or getting more followers on social media, it is one of the most important and most overlooked systems in your business, especially in small businesses. When you get your onboarding right, you get a team of people around you who are committed, engaged, and excited to work on this business that you love so much. And for you, it means way more freedom. Freedom to focus on the big picture, freedom to grow, and even freedom to take some well-deserved breaks. And I want to start with a quick overview of our onboarding process here at HerBusiness. I'm so proud that we have a high retention rate for employees and contractors alike, with some of our team having stuck around for over 2 decades with us. Yeah, for reals. And to make it even more impressive, we're not all in the one office. We're spread across different time zones on different continents. But despite that, we've managed to create an environment where our team feels connected, valued, and most importantly, aligned with one another so that we can get work done smoothly. And this is not by accident. It's because we've worked hard to create a strong onboarding system that helps new team members integrate, vibe with our work culture, and feel supported not just weeks, but years after they're hired. And I'm going to be honest, it didn't start off this way. And I'm celebrating this year 30 years since I started my first business. And it definitely wasn't like this in the first few years. So I'm going to tell you what I've done. The thing is, whether you're hiring your first virtual assistant or you've got a team of 20 people already, this episode is for you. We're going to be talking about why onboarding matters more than anything else when it comes to employee retention. What steps you should definitely have in your onboarding system and some common mistakes that small business owners make when hiring someone new. So, are you ready? Welcome to the HerBusiness podcast. I'm Susie Daphnis. I'm the CEO at HerBusiness, and we are going to dive in. So let's start off by talking about why having a solid team matters so much. Now, as business owners, we often have to wear all the hats: the marketing hat, the customer service hat, the strategist hat, the content creation hat, all the hats. And while some of us might take pride in being able to fill all those roles, the truth is that our heads just aren't big enough to carry all those hats at the same time. Not if it's going to be a sustainable business. And it's not also just about the sustainability of your business, it's also the sustainability of your sanity. Now, if you're listening to this as a solopreneur right now, you probably already feel stretched thin. And that's because there's only so much that you alone can do. There's only so many hours in the day, people. And you have to save at least a few of them to sleep and eat and see your pets and your family and your exercise and all those things. Now, burnout is such a real risk when you're the only one doing everything. And I've seen countless business owners hit that wall because they've tried to do it all without any support. In order to grow sustainably, you need help. You need a team that can take on some of the day-to-day responsibilities so that you can focus on the big picture vision for your business. Now, onboarding is all about creating a system that works for your team, not the other way around. As I mentioned earlier, our team has been with us for years, and that kind of longevity and loyalty doesn't happen by accident. It's because we prioritize our team members, we invest in them and their skills and in connecting with them, and we make sure that they're onboarded in a way that sets them up for long-term success. It's all about freedom. When you have a strong team, you have the freedom to delegate, to step away, to trust that the wheels will keep turning even when you're not at the steering wheel every second day. I've just had the great pleasure of being away for 5.5 weeks. And it's the systems that we have in place, the systems that the team works with, and the longevity of the team, the experience they have, that made that possible. And freedom allows you to focus on your real job as the business owner, which is visualizing the next steps, planning your strategy, making those big moves that will take your business to the next level. Now, I read a Gallup study recently that found that companies with higher employee engagement levels have 21% more profit than those with lower engagement. 21%! Can you imagine if your profits went up by that much? Your team directly impacts your bottom line. And where does that engagement start? It starts right at the beginning with your onboarding. Now, I'm not saying that everyone listening should go out and find 10 new hires tomorrow. Depending where you are in your business journey, you're going to want to form a team that fits with what you need. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about onboarding, but you're going to get some other tips that you can use even with your existing team. The important part is no matter if you're just starting out or you're running a full-scale business, it's having a structured onboarding system that matters. So if you're a solopreneur and you're hiring your first VA, your first virtual assistant, that's a big step. This is your first experience stepping slightly out of the doing role and more into a leadership role. Now, this can be daunting because hiring that VA isn't just about having someone to help you with your tasks. It's also about learning to let go a little, to trust someone else with the precious business that you've been working on so hard. And even if it's just the two of you, the onboarding process still matters. It's still absolutely relevant. In fact, that first hire is going to set the stage for your onboarding system in the future. So doing it right the first time, even when you are a team of two, is essential. But don't worry, if you've missed a few times, maybe you've had a bit of a revolving door of team, that's okay. We can get it right the next time round. Now, for those of you who are what we refer to as micropreneurs, maybe you have a team of between 2 and 15 team members, or you have contractors or a few full-time employees, the onboarding system that you've laid down becomes even more important because you are dealing with different types of employment structures. Some people might be full-time, others might be part-time, or they might be casuals or contractors or work on specific projects. It doesn't matter. Everyone needs onboarding, and you need to set a foundation so that everyone understands how they fit into the bigger picture and how they can communicate with each other. And you have to figure out how to make everyone feel like they are part of your team. That is such, I'm going to underline that in the air, in the ether. I'm going to underline that. You want everyone to feel like they are part of your team. Now, some of you might be full-scale entrepreneurs, which means, you've got big teams, you've got dozens of people, maybe you've got different departments, and your role is to keep everything running smoothly while reaching those longer-term goals. Now, onboarding here is about maintaining consistency, and maybe you are not doing the onboarding yourself in this instance, but you still want your new hires to feel integrated into the company culture without being overwhelmed, which happens often when there are more established systems that you've been using for years. You can take it for granted. At this stage, it's easy to throw that new hire into the deep end and then to turn your attention to something else because, everything's documented or, they look like they have all the experience or they're a senior person, they've been around for a while, they should be able to just slide on into the role. But you can't expect them to swim unless you have a system in place that gives them the resources that they need. Hiring directly impacts retention. And a recent report found that 69% of employees are more likely to stay with a company for 3 years or longer if they have experienced great onboarding. People like structure. They like to know what to expect and what's expected of them. It doesn't matter if you're hiring your first virtual assistant or your 50th employee, your onboarding needs to be established. And so at this point, you might be thinking, okay, Susie, I get that it matters, but I just don't have a system. To create a great onboarding system, you do have to start from the beginning, and that is the job posting. This is where you start to set expectations. So as I said, I wasn't always in this position. I didn't always know what I'm sharing here today. I was terrible at this. I really believed that if someone's resume said they knew how to do something, that they would know how to do it, and they would do it well, and they would do it the way that made sense for our business. And I was wrong. I was so wrong. So people need to know how to be successful in your environment. I remember 1 year early in my business where I hired for the role of receptionist 4 times. 4 times, not because I needed 4 receptionists, but because every one of those 4 either left or they were fired. The common denominator was me. The common denominator was that we hadn't onboarded them very well. They didn't know what success looked like. They didn't know what it meant to do that role in our business. So when you're hiring, you want to think of your job posting as your chance to make a first impression. It isn't just about listing the qualifications and the requirements. It's really an opportunity to share a bit about your business, why you started it, and attract the right kind of person. Now, your job posting should be as clear as possible, but it should also convey your values and kind of have the tone of your business. So describe the type of person who would do well on your team and why the role matters. Because I guarantee that someone who matches that description is reading it, and you don't want that person to skip over your job posting. You want that person reading it to think, you know what, I can really see myself working here. That's the reaction you want. You want someone aligned with your mission and your values, and the more they are, the more motivated they're going to be from day one. Now, one major issue with the hiring process can be that right now, if you post a job, you're going to get a lot of applications because that's just the way of the world right now as we're recording. Now, half of them are going to be bots and spam messages, or they're going to be half-baked applications that show zero effort. People are just, applying for everything. Now, a little tip to weed out those people who are just pressing a quick apply button to 200 jobs a day is to include a question or a small task in your job post. Now, I know we've gone a little bit off track from onboarding, but this is going to help because, one, you're going to get the right sort of person. So it could be that you ask something like, in your cover letter, tell us about your all-time favorite project you've worked on. Or it could be easy, like include the words, I am your next hire, somewhere in your application. Even the idea of asking for a cover letter and then people don't, dismiss them immediately. If they can't read a simple instruction like that, then they're probably just sending off applications without really considering what is needed. So these little tips are going to help you weed out those that are just mass applying to jobs without taking the time to read. And, we want to avoid the robots. So this is really going to help. So let's keep looking at this hiring process and looking at interviewing very quickly. I know this is still onboarding. And this is what's happening before day one, because those interviews, they are people learning what it's going to be like to be a good fit for your business. Because if you've hired once, twice, 3 times, there's probably good people that said no, even though you offered the job. And it could be that you missed this piece in the interviewing. So I'm a big believer that yes, skills are important, but most skills can be taught because there's probably particular ways that you do things inside of your business. Your marketing, the way you do your marketing, the way you do your customer service. Yes, there's going to be some general rules, but there might be some very specific skills that you can help someone learn. It's much harder to find someone with your values, your workflow, your communication style. Now, a face-to-face interview in person or on video is crucial to me before I make an offer to someone. It gives me a chance to see how the candidate interacts with me, how they communicate, and whether that they have that spark that makes me think, yep, that person belongs here. I could totally see them in one of our team meetings. And it's not just about you assessing them. They're assessing you at the same time. They're deciding whether they want to be part of your company. So make sure that you are kind of giving them the scene, the lay of the land of what it would be like working with you. And be truly honest and really transparent. When you find that right person, that next step is to set up a contract or a letter of agreement. Again, this is setting the expectations right from the start, and it's bringing them into your business. So they haven't even started yet. They've said yes. You've made them an offer. They've agreed to it. And so you lay out your letter of agreement or your offer. So you want to outline the hours, the responsibilities, any key performance indicators, any other key points that really should be in paper. And this contract, and we never make it onerous, it's just a very simple 1 or 2 page letter that says, this is what you're agreeing to, this is the salary, this is what the role involves, do you understand that this is what day you're starting, these are, and then we're going through the other HR things like leave and all those things. But at least they know what's expected of them. And if they were feeling uncertain right off the bat, this gives them that confidence that's going to allow them to hit the ground running. So try and set those guidelines right away. Now, let's jump into the most exciting part of the onboarding system, and that's the first week. So you want to make sure that your new hire has everything they need without being overwhelmed. So they're going to get their email set up, you're going to give them access to the tools they'll need for their job, you're going to make sure they understand the basics of how everything operates. But don't do this. Don't bank up months and months of work and give it to that person. You want to get them starting slowly, perhaps even slower than they think they should be going. So you want to introduce them to the parts of your technology. So what we call your technology stack. So the tech that you use to run your business. What are the different applications you use? So if you're working with us, you're going to learn about Slack and Keep and Teamwork and Woofu and all the different tech tools that we use. What are the tech tools that you use that they're going to need to know? Can they poke around? Is there a little bit of training either provided by the technology company or by you that they can do in that first week just to get a feel for things? This is also the time to introduce them to the rest of your team. And it doesn't have to be formal. Sometimes casual introductions work best. The new person is going to want to know who everyone is and what their role is. And the goal is to Have team members start communicating with each other so that they know who to ask questions of. Sometimes you're not going to be the person they need to be asking, so they need to know who's who in your zoo. So we do this in a couple of ways. We have an organisational chart that we go over with that person, and it explains what roles people have and who reports to who, what days people are working, etc. And then we have daily huddles. And the first time someone comes to a daily huddle or a weekly meeting, I introduce them, and then everyone else on the team explains their role. So that can take a little bit of time depending on your team, but it's a great way for them to kind of get a sense of it. Now, they may not remember everything, so we do have that written as well. We have what the person's role is, what they're responsible for, and of course, they're going to have opportunities, certainly in our business and the daily huddles, to connect with people and better understand what everyone does. But importantly, that first week is all about your why, having them understand, why does your business exist? Why are you so passionate about it? What are your values? What is the plan for the next quarter, the next year? Like, what is the big picture? What are you trying to achieve with your clients? And people want to be part of something bigger than themselves and bigger than their paycheck. They want to be part of a business that's up to something, that's making an impact. And you want to build that emotional connection and have them feel like they are contributing to the bigger picture of what you do. For example, here at HerBusiness, all our team members are as passionate as I am about helping women entrepreneurs build and grow successful businesses. We all come from a different place with our different skill sets, but we're working towards the same goal. So once that first week is over, you want to take that team member deeper into the day-to-day workings of the business, especially as it relates to their role. And actually, the first month should be all about integrating them into actual projects and tasks. So we mix a balance of training, briefing, and then some tasks. So they're not necessarily doing whole projects on their own, but they are doing things and feeling productive while also still learning. And you want to have them have a go. Right? You want to give them the training, the responsibility and the support, and then let them go. Let them do the task, right? And they may fumble, they may not get it right, but you want to let them know that that's okay, that if they followed the process, if they've done the training, if they've asked the questions, and then they've made a mistake, that just happens. But you're going to trust them to do their job, and that you're available to ask questions. So you want to introduce them to the ongoing projects you have. You want to let them sit in on meetings that are relevant to them, and you want to give them a role that they can get started on, some projects that they can do. But remember, this is still a learning period, and while it's important to hand off tasks, you can't expect them to hit the ground running at full speed just yet. So this is where you're laying the groundwork and you're setting the stage for them to grow into their role. Now, most people, they learn from taking action, from actually doing. So while you could just hand them a guide to read through, most of the onboarding process comes from them actually getting hands-on experience. So let them learn about the campaign you're running and each step involved. Let them explore and ask questions and offer solutions and be part of the conversation. Now, no question is a bad question on onboarding because they're new, they're learning. And you should make sure that they're comfortable asking. And what might seem obvious to you because you've been doing this forever, or to someone else who's been working with you for years, might not be given to someone who's just joined the team. It might not be obvious to them. So there's a step that small business owners, both big and small actually, we miss. And that is to have consistent check-ins and opportunities for feedback for your new team members. Obviously for your ongoing ones as well, but certainly in the beginning. Now, onboarding is not a 1 week and done process. You can't just throw a new hire in and expect them to be swimming in a week. It's an ongoing process, and those first few months are crucial for your new hire's success. And I said earlier, don't just throw, months worth of work that's been building up and expect them to do it. You really want to pace it out, and the pace might be frustratingly slow for you in the beginning, but if they're picking it up, if they're gaining confidence, if they're completing the work well, if they've been trained well, if there's systems and procedures, then it's not going to be long before they are up to speed. Now, I recommend scheduling regular one-on-ones with your new people for at least 3 months. And these check-ins should be consistent and structured, ideally every week, at most every other week. In the first week, we often make these check-ins daily. And you want to ask them how they feel about their progress, see what areas they're struggling with, answer any questions they have. The goal here is to create an environment where your new person knows that they can speak up and ask for what they need, and that there's a structure for them to do that so that they don't feel like they're bothering you. They know, I'm going to meet every day with Susie for 30 minutes. I'm going to hold that question over to there. Now, that regular feedback is going to be a game changer for a truly successful onboarding process. And I found that teams that have regular check-ins and feedback sessions are the ones that are most motivated to do their best work and communicate better. Now, at HerBusiness, we have a daily huddle on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And they're not long. They're typically 20 to 30 minutes or so, but they give us an opportunity to be on the same page about what's getting done that day. And it's also a perfect way for the team to communicate when they need something from each other, what they're waiting on, or if there's needs to be multiple eyes on something. And then once a week on a Wednesday, we have a team meeting. Now, these usually last a little longer than our huddles, and they're not just about the work that's getting done. So every week at our team meeting, so in our huddles, we have a process. People report in what they did yesterday that's relevant for us all to know. It's not a laundry list. It's like the key things they achieved, the key things they're working on that day, and where they need support, where they're waiting on someone. And everyone reports that in. And then if there's any additional announcements or questions, then we can do that at the end. But the whole thing is wrapped up in about 20 or 30 minutes max. Every Wednesday at our team meeting, we have a different format. So we start off with what we call a what I feel like saying. Now, this is an update that anyone wants to give. This is our water cooler conversation. As I said, we are located all over the globe. But even if you're in the office, you don't necessarily all get to speak to each other. So this is kind of an opportunity for everyone to check in and let us know how they're doing. They may want to give us an update on the weather happening in their city, or sometimes it's letting us know that they're a little stressed or one of the kids broke their arm. Sometimes it's a quick life update. And then, you know what? It just makes us all human, and it gives everyone time to keep up with each other's lives, something that I think can disappear when we're not physically in an office together. So it's like, as I said, meeting at that virtual water station. Then we go around and we do acknowledgements, and sometimes they're for ourselves because tooting your own horn is encouraged in our team, and other times it's acknowledging other team members on a particular task or an event or a launch or some way that they helped you. And I found that in business and life, we often move on from things. I am so guilty of this. We complete a difficult task, or we finish a big promotion, or we land a big client, and right away we're on to the next thing. Now, this weekly exercise of our acknowledgements gives us the opportunity to pause, to take the time to actually appreciate what we're doing, to give kudos to one another, and to get some well-deserved appreciation. Now, we finish our team meetings by going through that week's statistics. So there's key things that we measure on our team, and these are transparent to everyone. They're the different sales we're making on different products and services. It's our lead generation activity. It's how we're doing on our campaigns. Now, this makes every team member feel involved with the big picture progress. So even if not every team member is involved in every project discussed, they'll still feel in the loop on what's going on in different parts of the business. And we're a small business, but we can work in these silos, and this way everyone is across what's happening. Now, we don't go into conversations that could be had between two people in the whole group, but we're informing the entire team about things that are relevant, that are happening on a big picture scale. Now, this is a process we've used for years, and I highly encourage you, if you don't have a meeting structure, to steal our structure. You can actually write to me at podcast@herbusiness.com and get this in a written format if that helps. I'm happy to do that for you. So podcast@herbusiness.com. Just ask for our meeting structure and I'll get back to you. But those daily huddles and weekly meetings are the consistent check-ins that we need on our team to effectively communicate with each other and to get things done. Because not everything can be communicated in Slack or by email or Messenger or Voxer or wherever. We need some of that face-to-face time, even if that face-to-face is virtual. But remember, with a new person, you should be scheduling your one-on-ones regularly so that they have opportunities to ask questions in a non-group setting, right? So that they're not embarrassed and so other people's time isn't taken up and they can talk about their job-specific tasks. Now, Esther, who's been on our team for about 6 months, who is awesome, she shared with me just earlier this week that when we were working and talking about this episode, she said, I found the one-on-one sessions extremely helpful when I was onboarding, and they gave me the foundation I needed to start taking more responsibility and feel like I had a good grasp on everything happening within the business. And this made me smile so much because that's exactly what I'm talking about today. You want people to feel like, oh, I can start taking more responsibility. I can totally own this because I feel like I've got a good grasp on what's happening here. And that's what you want. You want people to feel like they have a grasp on things and they feel confident. So Let's talk about staff turnover for a minute. We're in an interesting time right now where, depending where you are in the world, that you might see that there's employee rates are turning over really high in some businesses. And I sometimes hear people say, especially in reference to younger employees, oh, people just don't want to work anymore. That's not my reality. I've heard that for years. I don't believe it's some societal shift or that humans are getting lazier. I think it's that people don't want just any work. They want meaningful work. They want to feel valued, supported, they're making a difference. They want to feel like they can grow in their position. Even if you are a small business and you don't have opportunities for promotion, people can still grow. They can grow their skills. They can learn new technology. They can expand their mindset. They want to get opportunities to lead and eventually take on more responsibility. So there isn't a lack of willingness to work. I believe it's about the workplace or the business owner not meeting our employees' needs because we haven't really thought through our role as a leader. And as I said, I wasn't always good at this, and I'm always trying to improve my skills. In fact, I'm going to a leadership retreat next week, later this week actually, as we're recording, because I want to keep expanding my skills. Just like I want my employees' skills to expand, I want to expand my skills. And going back to our topic for today, I think that onboarding plays a huge role in setting the tone for whether or not someone feels like they have a future in your business. So if your onboarding is rushed, unstructured, non-existent, and makes people feel unsupported, then you are setting them up to not stay with you for a long time. It's on us as leaders to create an environment where the team feels like they can succeed, they can grow, and be part of the bigger picture. And all that starts on day one. But let's be real for a minute. Every once in a while, things don't work out, right? Maybe the person isn't a right fit, or maybe they're not meeting the expectations despite your efforts to help them improve. It happens in every business at some point, and it's never a great reality. When you're in the position where someone isn't working out, it is awkward. Now, many business owners go the easy route by making that firing process as quick as they can. Other business owners, I see them hire and fire very quickly often, and it keeps being that person's fault, where maybe we need to look and see, how are we hiring? How are we setting people up for success? I want to encourage you to slow down and really use hiring, working with team as a learning opportunity. Getting feedback from your people if they're willing, if someone didn't work out, at what didn't work for them. Before we point the finger, let's see if there was something they say that didn't work. Maybe they felt overwhelmed. Maybe they felt lost. Like maybe there's something that we can learn from that experience. Maybe it wasn't we didn't match personalities, but maybe they thought, I'm way out of my depth. And it won't be the most comfortable conversation, but you might learn something. And you're showing that person that you really do care about their experience and that you will take on board that feedback and improve your onboarding process. Now, there's a couple of reasons that people have onboarding fails. Like if someone's leaving, like within a month or 3 months with you hiring them, it could be that they were the wrong fit. It could be that they were overwhelmed. And if you think back to when you tried to learn something new, maybe you wanted to learn Spanish or you decided to crochet. Now, you don't start learning a language by learning all the complex future tenses, or, you'll learn a few words and maybe a few verb endings in the beginning. If you're doing your first crochet project, you're not suddenly, making a blanket. You might be doing a granny square or a slip stitch, a scarf. I don't really speak crochet. You can probably tell by the way I just said that. Too much information too soon can make you feel paralyzed, overwhelmed, and no longer excited, right, to learn a new thing. So the key here is to break down your onboarding into manageable pieces. So prioritize what they need to know in their first week. What do they need to know in their second week, the third week, the first 3 months? And really layer the weeks with growth and growth and growth. So create that roadmap for them. Let them know that gradually their responsibilities are going to grow and that they need to absorb more information over time. The second failure is that lack of consistent check-ins. And we talked about this earlier, but it's worth emphasizing again. Throwing someone in the deep end without guidance is a recipe for failure. When they don't check in, you have no idea if your new hire is struggling, thriving, or somewhere in between. And when you haven't set up the structure for them to check in with you, they may ask someone else on their team, or they may not ask. by the time you realize there's an issue, it might be too late. Now, onboarding is not a one-time event. It's a process that takes time. And the more time and effort that you invest into getting it right, the more you'll see that investment pay off. Now, you might have hired someone who's reporting to someone else. You want to make sure they've got the onboarding process. And as the business owner, and I know if you're listening, you're likely got a growing business. You probably don't have a huge business. Then I would still keep my finger on the pulse as far as setting the structure. You'll see your investment pay off, just like we have with our team members who've been with us for years. And that's because we do put the effort into doing that onboarding right. And then, of course, we need to maintain it with those regular check-ins, with the meetings we have, with making sure we're briefing people well. We have other systems and structures that support the team feeling empowered. And remember, even though it can seem like a long process to onboard someone properly and actually get them up to speed, it's going to pay off so many times over, because it's more expensive to keep hiring and losing people. And when you do this right, you get more freedom to spend time on the things that really matter, the things that are your role in the business. If you have questions about this topic, there's a couple of things I want you to do. One, you can email me at podcast@herbusiness.com. The second thing you can do is follow us on Instagram, because we're constantly posting little nuggets of business tips there. And quite often we are posting about systems and team and marketing and all the things, but they're in little short Instagram type bites. But once again, follow us on Instagram at @herbusiness, or you can email me at podcast@herbusiness.com if you've got a specific question. So that's this episode. In the next episode, we have a great guest. She's one of our members, and her name is Jovana Vojnik. Her business is Bumper Leads, and she's an expert on all things email automation. So if you're wanting to level up your email campaigns and add some automation so that it's not a manual process and have a worry-free workflow, then you want to tune in next week. So if you're new to the show or you haven't yet subscribed, you want to hit that subscribe button, and then you'll get the episode right away. And the episodes drop every Thursday. I love doing this show for you. I appreciate you listening and sharing the show with your friends. I love it whenever I get a comment from you on what you enjoyed. So you can make my day by either writing to me at podcast@herbusiness.com or going across to Apple Podcasts and leaving us a rating or a review. Now, I'm going to give you a URL where you're going to find a summary of what we've covered in today's episode, as well as links to other resources that we've talked about today. And that is our show notes page. And the show notes page for this episode is www.herbusiness.com/276. That's herbusiness.com/276. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you back real soon, right here on the Her Business podcast. Bye for now.